Have you ever, like, worn a specific lucky shirt to an important meeting?
Oh, yeah, or a big exam.
Right, and you're just absolutely convinced that this piece of fabric was somehow totally responsible for your success.
Definitely. Or think about when you catch a terrible cold.
Ugh, the worst.
Yeah, and you take some random herbal supplement on, like day 5.
And wake up feeling amazing on day 6.
Exactly. And then you're swearing to everyone that this magical herb just cured you overnight.
Yes. If you are nodding right now, you are totally not alone. You're experiencing, well, one of the most common and seductive tricks your own mind plays on you.
It's wildly common.
It is. So today, this deep dive is completely dedicated to that exact phenomenon. We were pulling from this really intriguing text called The Crow and the Palm, Understanding Kakataliya Logic.
Such a great source.
Yeah, it really is. And our mission today is to explore the intense, almost obsessive way human brains try to connect the dots in the world around us. We want to figure out how to definitively spot the difference between a genuine, verifiable connection and what is basically a complete illusion.
Which is arguably one of the most vital cognitive distinctions you can ever learn to make.
Really?
That big of a deal.
Oh, absolutely. Because as human beings, we are fundamentally meaning-making machines. I mean, we look out at this incredibly chaotic, unpredictable universe.
Which is terrifying sometimes.
Right. And we desperately, like, on a biological level, want it to make sense. We have to know why things happen so we can try to predict what will happen next. It's how we survive.
That makes total sense.
But that intense drive, that insatiable hunger for patterns, it can lead us incredibly far astray if we don't understand the mechanisms we're using to draw those connections.
Okay, let's unpack this, because today is all about identifying those common coincidences that trick us and contrasting them with real, actual causation.
But to understand why we get it wrong so often, we have to look at the machinery we use to process the world in the first place, right? We have to talk about logic.
The foundational tool.
Exactly. Logic is one of our most powerful tools for discovering truth, evaluating evidence, all that. But it's only useful when applied correctly. When it fails, we fall into these things called logical fallacies.
Which happen all the time.
All the time. It's like if logic is a high-tech GPS we use to navigate decisions, a logical fallacy is like a glitch in the software. It confidently gives you the completely wrong directions, but you still think you're on the right path.
That is a perfect analogy. And what's fascinating here is that these glitches, these, autocorrect errors in our mental software, they aren't just random.
They aren't.
No, they follow very specific, highly predictable patterns. Philosophers have documented them for centuries, and the specific pattern we are dissecting today has a remarkable name.
Right, Kakataliya Logic.
Kakataliya Logic.
It's such a striking word. It has this great rhythm to it. It definitely doesn't sound like a dry, sterile academic term.
Not at all.
It actually comes from a vivid, ancient Indian parable, right? A story passed down precisely to illustrate this exact error in human reasoning.
It does. It's a highly visual illustration.
Let's drop right into that scene then, because it really captures the mechanism perfectly. Set the stage for us.
Okay, so picture an ancient, towering palm tree.
Okay, I see it.
High up on this tree, there's a large branch. But this branch is not healthy. It's been weakening for a very, very long time. It's heavily decayed, brittle, rotting from the inside out from years of storms and bugs.
So it's basically on its last legs.
Exactly. It has reached the absolute limit of its structural integrity. It is on the very brink of snapping.
Like hanging by a literal thread. The slightest breeze would bring the whole thing crashing down.
Precisely. The internal mechanisms of the branch have entirely failed. Now, at that exact microsecond in time, a crow happens to fly into the scene. Just a crow. It flutters down and perches exactly on that weakened palm branch. And instantly, the very moment the bird's tiny feet touch the bark, the branch snaps with a loud, violent crack and crashes all the way to the ground.
Wow. It's a highly cinematic sequence of events.
It really is. And this is where the human element enters the parable. So a passerby happens to be walking down the road directly beneath the tree at that exact moment.
Okay.
They look up and they witness these two distinct events happening in rapid succession. Event A, the crow landing, and Event B, the massive branch snapping.
And their brain just goes to work.
Instantly, the autocorrect feature kicks in. They conclude with absolute unwavering certainty that the weight of the crow landing is what caused the massive branch to fall.
But the physical reality is totally different. The branch was doomed anyway, right? The internal decay, which was totally invisible from the ground, was the actual cause.
Exactly. The crow's arrival at that precise moment was just a massive, spectacular coincidence.
Just crazy timing.
Purely coincidence of timing. The passerby takes a chronological sequence. The bird landed, and then the tree fell, and they illegitimately upgrade it to a causal sequence.
The bird caused the tree to fall.
Right. They assume a 2-pound bird possessed the physical kinetic force to snap a massive palm branch, which, defies the laws of physics.
Yeah, it makes no sense physically.
But it makes perfect sense to a brain trying to quickly explain a sudden loud noise.
Right. But, here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because if we put ourselves in that passerby's shoes for a second, they aren't necessarily being foolish, right? Like, they aren't willfully ignoring logic. They just arrived late to the story. They missed the years of the branch slowly weakening and rotting. So they just naturally blamed the only visible trigger they had access to.
You're absolutely right. And that tension you're pointing out, that's exactly why Kakataliya logic is so pervasive and so difficult to defeat.
Because we never have the full story.
Exactly. We are almost always arriving late to the story. And it happens because temporal proximity, things happening at the same time, is incredibly seductive to the human mind. Because, evolutionary speaking, it's highly efficient.
Oh, like if you hear rustling in the bushes and see a tiger, you don't stop to investigate the wind.
Exactly. You just run. A false positive costs you some calories, but a false negative costs you your life.
Wow. So we are basically walking around with brains biologically optimized to overconnect the dots.
We are.
So how does a story about a bird and a tree from ancient times translate into our modern day-to-day lives?
Right.
Because obviously we aren't constantly staring at palm trees.
No, but the exact same mental glitch governs how we evaluate our successes, our health, or decisions today. Let's go back to those everyday examples, like the student with the lucky shirt.
Right.
A student prepares for a major exam, wears a specific shirt, and aces the test.
And instantly, those two events are linked. Wearing the shirt and getting the A.
Even though we consciously know a cotton t-shirt cannot access the memory centers of our brain?
Logically, we know that, but we do it anyway.
We do, because the student is dealing with a high-anxiety situation with invisible variables. They don't fully understand their own neurochemistry, so the brain latches onto a visible, controllable variable, the shirt, and assigns it causal power.
It gives them the illusion of control.
Exactly. It's harmless enough there. But let's look at the medical example, because this is where Kakataliya logic gets dangerous.
Ah, yes. The herbal remedy scenario.
Right. Someone has a miserable viral cold. They suffer for 5 days. Finally, out of sheer desperation, they take a random herbal remedy.
The crow lands on the branch.
The crow lands. The very next morning, they wake up, and their symptoms have drastically improved. Consequently, they aggressively assume that the herbal remedy alone cured them.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate here. If you're sick and you take something and you feel better, isn't it entirely logical in that moment to credit the remedy? How are we supposed to know if it was the expensive herb doing the work or just our own immune system doing the heavy lifting behind the scenes?
Yeah.
Because we can't feel our white blood cells. We just feel the timeline. Pill goes in, sickness goes away.
This raises an important question, and it's the exact tension that makes this fallacy so dangerous.
Yeah.
From your subjective perspective, it feels undeniably true because you experienced a direct timeline, action-reaction.
Right. It feels like a concrete fact.
But here's the critical distinction. Sound reasoning demands that we distinguish between a genuine cause and effect relationship and a mere chronological coincidence.
Okay, so how do we do that?
By looking at the biological reality, a common viral infection generally takes 5 to 7 days for the immune system to clear.
Oh, so on day 5 or 6, the body's already turning the corner.
Yes. The palm branch is already snapping. The body was going to recover on day 6 regardless of what you took on day 5.
So you could have eaten a handful of jelly beans and felt better the next day.
Exactly. But because we can't see the immune system's timeline, we assign all the credit to the visible intervention. We confuse a chronological coincidence with a causal one.
That is wild. It requires so much cognitive self-discipline to override that, though. Your brain is basically handing you this beautifully wrapped puzzle solution, and you have to hand it back and say, hold on, let me check the receipts.
You have to check the receipts, because if you rely on Kakataliya logic, it leaves you incredibly vulnerable. You might ignore actual evidence-based medical advice later because you're overly confident in a false connection.
Okay, so now that we know how easily we fall into this trap, we really need to talk about the antidote. How do we rewire our thinking? How do we protect our decision-making?
Careful thinking and demanding evidence.
Okay.
You have to establish a mandatory mental checkpoint. Before you believe event A caused event B, you must force yourself to ask a very specific question.
Which is there sufficient proof of a causal connection, or did these two events simply happen at the same time?
Exactly. You must actively hunt for the actual mechanism. How physically did the crow break the branch? It can't. How biologically did the cotton shirt improve your memory? It didn't.
Right.
If you can't find a logical, evidence-based mechanism linking the two events, you have to accept that you're likely looking at a coincidence.
So what does this all mean for us? It sounds like we have to stop acting like casual window shoppers who just look at the surface and start acting like scientists.
That's a great way to put it.
We can't just accept that the lucky shirt caused the A+. We have to look for the actual studying that did the work. We have to look for the real cause, even if it's invisible.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it reiterates that knowledge and logic are only valuable when applied rigorously.
Right.
When you demand a mechanism of action, you stop being easily manipulated by appearances. You become a critical thinker who makes judgments based on evidence. You regain control.
It's a phenomenal shift in perspective. It really forces you to take responsibility for your own reasoning.
Absolutely.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, the main takeaway is super clear. Our brains love to find patterns, and we're totally hardwired to link events together, but we must constantly guard against the Kakataliya trap of confusing coincidence with causation.
It takes constant practice, but it fundamentally improves the quality of your decisions.
Before we go, I want to leave you with one final lingering thought based on the passerby in the story.
Oh, this is a good one.
Think about this. If that passerby had never seen the crow, they would have simply accepted that the old branch fell because it was old.
Right.
The spectacular presence of the bird actually actively distracted them from reality. So I want you to look at your own life. How often does the mere presence of a colorful crow, some loud, distracting coincidence, prevent you from seeing the quiet, actual truth of why things happen?
It's a powerful question.
It really is. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep questioning the connections you see in the world around you, and we will catch you next time.